Mark sent us an email, and he says that a few weeks ago he emailed us about moving his agapanthus and lantana indoors for the winter. He said he went ahead and did that last Saturday, and so far so good. But he says he had a couple of follow-up questions specifically about the need that the plants have for light in the wintertime. And he says he's in a tiny apartment, and he doesn't get a ton of natural light through the windows, at least not direct light. So he's wondering, does he have to supplement that with some artificial light? And are there any signs he should be looking for to indicate that the plants need some more light?
Well, now, again, hard to answer, but let's give it a shot, Mark. Both of those plants taken into your apartment and only in direct light, which will be very low in intensity and so on, cues me to where you better be planning on just maintaining the plants indoors over winter so they don't freeze and die, etc. I would not try to grow them. And by that, then, simply, as the intensity of light has been dropped down necessarily, I would back off on water, too. Now, not zero by any means, but I would go down to what I call substance of growth, where you want to keep them moist enough the roots don't dry up. You don't want to keep them in a pot that will stand too wet because the use of water, therefore, in limited light is less, and you could start some decay in the root system and so on. So, dry them down, if you will, and by that meaning not to zero, but where on a philodendron that can grow under very limited light or pothos or whatever, you can grow those guys indoors. I have one that's now probably 10 years on the same plant stand, well within the enclosure of the living room. Gets only, well, it gets some light during the day, but it gets only sunshine into the room in the later afternoon after the oak tree is defoliated. And that plant can be grown on during the wintertime. It slows down. I therefore slow down a little bit on the water. That is one level.
Okay, now, okay. I'm going to stop you for just a second. Okay. I know you're on a roll, but when you say cut back on the watering, enough to keep them alive, but not enough to get them to grow, how do you do that? What do you like? Is there a frequency, or do you look for it? Do you put, I put my knuckles on the soil and feel to see if there's any moisture? I mean, what do you look for there?
Let's start right there, because knuckles on the soil, when you learn to read your knuckles, can be very, very helpful. And on those pothos and philodendron plants I mentioned that can grow under very reduced light, you'd want to feel some dryness in the soil, but only just dryness. Now, you might want to go with your fingertips down to the first knuckle, because when it's dry down that first half inch, we'll call it, then you should be watering again. Now, in the plants like the agapanthus, etc., he's going to be waiting until that plant is dry down maybe 2 knuckles deep.
Okay.
This is a little difficult to explain. I would rather he would put these plants, for safety to furniture and floors and carpets, I'd rather he put them in a saucer of some kind. Doesn't matter what, just so it holds water. I'd like him to put some gravel in the bottom of that saucer, depending on its height, etc. I would use something that's 1.5 inches high, lip on it, and then theoretically put in 1 inch of gravel. I would then be inclined to water to the point of running down into that graveled area with the excess water, but watering very infrequently. Now, that could be down to where the philodendron, you might be watering every 2 weeks. The agapanthus, etc., it might be every 3rd week.
Lantana, same thing?
I'm sorry, yes. Lantana, by all means, the same. Now, lantana can probably grow a little bit better in limited light, but it won't flower well. It'll get a little straggly and so on. So it's the knuckles, it's the gravel that tingers water, and then that water evaporates and keeps some moisture on the leaves and so on. So it's hard to explain, but each plant has its own needs.